Steel City. Is everybody ready to go? It's proclaim the greatest radio show.
Welcome. Week 1, fantasy football. I'm so fired up because I just sat in traffic for 2 hours. I might murder Dash.
Go ahead, man. Try it.
Oh, man, I hate traffic. There's too much traffic. If there was any traffic from walking from my car to the studio, I probably wouldn't even be here right now. It's too much. Anyway, fantasy football just starting. Week 1, the Steelers play the Redskins Monday night. Real quick before we get into that, number 1 fantasy performer for the Steelers, AB?
Yeah, AB.
Or Ben?
Well, Ben should have a decent game, but I'm going to go AB.
All right. Well, we're going to do it the same way this year. Situational starters, sleepers, deep sleeper. We might throw in an extra sleeper. I'm probably going to talk about Terrell Pryor every single week because everybody knows that I love him. So, with that said, we're going to start the situational starters. I took Christian Michael this week. I know a lot of people don't like the pick. A lot of people think Thomas Rawls is the number 1 back out there, and he may still become the number 1 back out in Seattle. But right now, I think his ankle's still bothering him a little bit, and there's no real official word. But I did see that Michael is listed as number 1 on the depth chart right now, and he is just going to be beast because Seattle's going to run the hell out of the football.
Yeah, Rawls is actually going to be active, but Christian Michael's going to start this game, and this is a perfect game for him to get the start in and maybe take the job away from Rawls, because if he gets it going early, there's no reason to hand the job back over to Rawls, because these two were in a battle this preseason. Now they're going up against Miami to open the season. They let up the most fantasy points to running backs last season.
I don't think it'll be that bad this year, but it's not going to be that good either.
Yeah, they're going to get better, but this is a great game for Christian Michael, and I have a feeling he's going to be able to run with this job, because I said it before the season started a while back that Christian Michael has a good chance to take over the number 1 job out there, and I think he can do it in this game. And he has to keep it going, though. 3 or 4 games, though, and then Rawls will be in his rearview mirror.
Yeah, and it's not like Rawls really cemented himself, I guess,
he was
starter.
good, but
it
wasn't
over
very long.
Yeah, he took over when Lynch went down. He played good for a short period of time, but then he went down. So it's not like he's entrenched as that number 1 guy. So Michael could definitely take that spot. In Seattle, I mean, we all know they run the football. They use play action for their passing game, so they have to run successfully to be able to pass.
I think Tyler Lockett's going to have a big year, too. But another running back you can take a look at is Spencer Ware from the Kansas City Chiefs. It looks like Jamal Charles is going to be out the first week, but he should be back after that. I still like Jamal Charles, but in week 1 here versus San Diego let up the 7th most fantasy points to running backs last season. Like I said, he's going to be a starter, and it looks like he's going to be the 3-down back out there. He is going to be the feature back for at least the first game, and he actually looked good in the passing game this preseason as well. He actually had more catches in the preseason than he had all of last year, so it looks like he's adding a little bit of versatility to his game, and he could have a big game here versus San Diego. We know their defense isn't that great.
He sounds like a brand of underwear, Spencer Ware.
How about a wide receiver? And I'm going to go with your favorite team, the Cleveland Browns, and go with Corey Coleman at Philadelphia. Philadelphia, the reason I'm taking him is because he's going up against Philadelphia. Philadelphia was terrible against the pass last season, led up the 2nd most points to fantasy wide receivers. There is no Josh Gordon yet. He's going to be out, 4 games, something like that.
TP.
So it's going to be Corey Coleman and Terrell Pryor starting in this game as the 1 and 2. Now, Coleman, he really didn't do much in the preseason, just had a catch or 2, and he was actually injured. He had a hamstring injury, but he is healthy. He's going to start in this game, and I think this is a good game to get him going. I'm not going to predict huge numbers out of him, but I think if you're going to start this guy, this is one of his best matchups all season.
RG3 named a team captain. Dude's about to break out.
How about some sleepers here?
I'm going to go with Rashard Matthews from Tennessee. He left Miami after last season, moved on to Tennessee. I don't want to say they have nobody. They have some injuries and some unproven guys. So really right now, Rashard Matthews is the best wide receiver who's actually played NFL regular season games on that roster. Marcus Mariota, for me, I think is going to have a big year. I was bigger on Jameis Winston than Mariota going into the rookie season, but I don't know. I think Mariota might have showed more understanding of the NFL game than Winston. I know I'm not saying Winston's going to be bad. I just think Mariota is going to be a little better than I originally thought. And I think Rashard Matthews is going to be the big recipient of that. And Tennessee has DeMarco Murray there now. So if they can get that run game going, you get some play action going, you get Mariota moving around a little bit. Matthews can get deep. He can get deep when he has the ball in his hands. So this guy's a playmaker, and he could really work out for Tennessee.
Yeah, and I don't know if it's going to be Mariota or Winston as the better quarterback. I can't really tell at this point, but I tell you one thing, Mariota had a big week 1 last year. What was it, 4 touchdowns or something like that?
Doing it big.
Maybe he can repeat that. Who knows? But they have Tajay Sharp starting on the other side of Rashard Matthews. They actually are saying Rashard Matthews is going to move around the field playing a slot some as well. And really, they have Andre Johnson and Harry Douglas behind those two. He do still have Kendall Wright, but he's injured right now. And it looks like if Andre Johnson does anything for the Titans this season, that Wright may just be pushed out and be the number 5 on this team when he does come back healthy. But Matthews, to me, is the most consistent, reliable receiver out of these bunch for sure. And we've seen with Miami last year, they had Jarvis Landry doing all the big plays and everything. But Rashard Matthews was consistent, and he was very trustworthy for Ryan Tannehill, and I think he can do the same for Mariota.
And, he's really good with the ball in his hands, so you might see him get some reverses or an end around. Maybe not in this game. I'm just saying throughout the season, because Mike Mularkey is still out there in Tennessee, and we all know how much he loves all that malarkey.
A couple running backs you can look at is New England Patriots running back James White. They are going at Arizona. They let up the 7th fewest fantasy points to running backs last season, but James White's the guy that's going to be used in the passing game. And we know Garoppolo, he's probably not going to blow up or anything, but James White could be a nice check down for him in his game if the passing game isn't working out as well as he hopes. And really, James White is supposed to take over the Dion Lewis role. Now, he's not going to be Dion Lewis, but that's a nice role to take over for James White. And I could see him having a decent game here, even though I don't expect the New England offense to blow up or anything. But I think James White is going to get a few touches in his game. Another running back, a guy we talked about a few times last year, had him as a sleeper, is Theo Riddick from the Detroit Lions. They're going up against the Indianapolis Colts in Indy. They led up the 16th most fantasy points to running backs last season, but he figures to be heavily involved in the passing game, obviously. He was last year as well. And to me, this is a game that the Detroit Lions are going to be passing a ton, and I think the Indianapolis Colts are going to go out there and handle the Detroit Lions defense, and I think the Lions offense is going to be passing all game. They got Amir Abdullah out there as well. He's going to be the guy they hand the ball off to mostly, but I don't think they're going to do big things in the running game because they're going to have to try to keep up with Luck. I think Luck's going to have a big year, unlike last year. So I think they're going to have to try to keep up with Indy in this game, and Theo Riddick's going to take advantage of that and have a solid game.
With Megatron gone, the ball's going to get spread out a lot more, too, in Detroit. So I'm not saying that Riddick's going to be Megatron or anything, but there's going to be more touches for everybody available instead of Stafford having to, or trying to force the ball to Megatron every time.
Well, you still got Golden Tate out there, and he's the beast. He's the best receiver they got out there. And Marvin Jones is probably going to be the number 2 wide receiver out there with Eric Ebron taking a lot of passes as well. But he's actually injured right now, and it's possible he misses the game. And that could actually help my next guy here, and this is our first deep sleeper, and it's same team, Anquan Bolden, and going up against the Colts, obviously. They led up the 9th most fantasy points to wide receivers. He's actually listed 3rd on the depth chart right now behind Tate and Marvin Jones, like I was saying. But again, they're going to be passing a lot in this game, and I think with Eric Ebron out, that's going to be a few more targets for each of these guys, and I think Bolden could have something like 5 catches, 60 yards, and maybe find the end zone.
I've always liked Anquan Bolden. He's always played well. I don't remember him having a down year. I think he had 1 year in San Fran where he didn't put up real big numbers. Might even have been this past season because they just had a horrendous quarterback position.
Was he? No, didn't he go to the Ravens after San Fran, or was it the other way around?
I think the other way around.
I don't know. I can't remember.
Maybe it was. I don't know. He's been a lot of teams, and he's always been good. So he's definitely a guy who can play well, who gets a lot of catches. Maybe not big yards anymore. He'll I don't want to say be lucky to eclipse 1,000 yards, but he's getting up there in age.
How about your deep sleeper?
Of course, it's going to be Terrell Pryor. This guy's going to blow up this year. I was not big on Pryor as a quarterback. He didn't have I don't even want to. He just didn't have it. You know
He
what
has
I
a
mean?
record.
Like, quarterback, yeah. I mean, he ran at 90-something yards on the Steelers. But quarterbacks, you just get that certain feel from them, and he just didn't have it. But he's a great athlete, so good for him. Instead of pulling the Tim Tebow and being a crybaby, he went out, he worked hard in another position, learned to craft, and now he's a starting wide receiver. Yes, it's for the Cleveland Browns, but you got to start somewhere, right?
And it may not last all season. We'll have to see when Gordon
now,
comes back.
He's probably going to be the deep threat guy. I would think whenever Josh Gordon comes back, if he gets to come back, you never know with this guy. He could go do drugs again right now. And then they have Corey Coleman. That could be, and I've predicted it already, the Browns offense to be pretty good this year. They're going to sneak up on some teams, and they're going to surprise some people. And I think Pryor is going to have a good year for somebody who's basically a first-year wide receiver, because I don't really count last year.
Yeah, and like we said before, at Philadelphia, this is one of the best matchups they're going to have all season in terms of the passing game. They got
and
torched
Hugh
against
Jackson's
the
in
pass
there
last season.
in Cleveland. He's going to model them a lot like the offense they ran in Cincinnati with Andy Dalton, and he put the ball in the air, and Jackson believes in RG3. So, I mean, these wide receivers out there can put up numbers if they can catch the football and if RG3 can get it there.
They do have some other good targets out there in a tight end in Gary Barnidge, and running back Duke Johnson is very good in the passing game as well. One other wide receiver here, and he is going up against Pittsburgh. For a deep sleeper, Pierre Garçon is not a bad play.
The Frenchman.
Pittsburgh let up the most fantasy points to wide receivers last season. We know Cousins played much better at home last year. The Steelers' defense was a mess week 1 last season, and there are still some questions with this defense. There's Bud Dupree just went down, so there's an injury there. There's a lot of questions with this secondary. I think Pierre Garçon could give you a solid game for a deep sleeper.
He'll give you a decent fantasy game, but I hate the dude, so I really
I was never a fan of him.
Before we go, should I play Melvin Gordon against Kansas City or Christian Michael against Miami?
Christian Michael.
All day. Later, Gordon. Sorry, hold on. I can't talk and change things.
Anybody else?
I don't think. I think my lineup's pretty set, at least for my pay league team.
Playing Tom Brady.
Yeah, I'll play a guy who's suspended. I got Derek Carr, man. I hated on him all year last year.
Are you starting Terrell Pryor? That is the real question.
He's on my team in my other league. So
yeah, well, you start.
I don't know if I am or not. I got to look at the lineup. Maybe I will.
Your receivers suck in that league, right? That's what you said.
It's Larry Fitzgerald and somebody else.
Well, Fitz isn't bad. Somebody else sucks.
Yeah. Alan Hearns, man, he's not that bad.
Nah, that isn't terrible. Play Pryor, though. Man up.
Oh, wait. No, he isn't. He's the first guy on my bench. Yeah, I'll have to either sit Hearns or Forte.
Nah, I'd play Forte.
So sit Hearns for Pryor?
I mean, I'm not going to suggest that, but as much as you talk him up, you better.
All day, I'm doing it. Just put him in. I don't know if I'm playing Eddie B or not, but he's going to lose this week. Screw you, Eddie. But that's it. That's all we got. That's all we got for you this week. Fans, follow us on Twitter at bet_the_spread. Follow me on Twitter at betjimthewin. Check out the Facebook page at facebook.com/betthespread. Keep coming back to YouTube. Click and subscribe. Best fantasy football info out there. We're going to try to get it up for you earlier in the week. It's just a holiday week. I got too drunk.